What's up, guys? I'm TheDeadlyXins, and today I'm going to be talking about game reviews, game reviewers, my opinion on the whole thing of the review system in the gaming community. Now, I want to start this off by saying I'm not too big a fan of game reviews in general. I personally do not see game reviews add anything to the gaming community. In fact, I see them create a disconnect between us gamers as a community, because we generally see game reviews, and one thing you have to remember is that a review is an opinionated article based on the opinion of one guy who happens to work for a big name gaming company like, IGN or GameSpot or fucking Destructoid, things like that. And there are many things that can add or detract from the review, such as whether the company that they're working for is working with the developers of a certain game, and whether or not whether or not they're being paid off to give the game a good review, or not even just being paid off, just because they're working with the developers, it would be a conflict of interest to give it a bad review, and it would sever their ties with the game developers. So you kind of see nowadays with big name review sites such as IGN or GameSpot or Destructoid or hell even G4, they kind of write their reviews in a vague sort of way to where they don't really go into specifics on the game. They don't really go into the mechanics, the gameplay, the story, all those things. They kind of just give you the sense of, what did I just read? And I guess that all means that it's a good review, so I should pick it up. But one case where this is especially true is the Call of Duty games, where game reviewers generally tend to give the Call of Duty games a vast majority of them tend to give them a good review, near perfect scores, whereas the vast majority of the gaming community are more like excuse me, they're more like the Call of Duties don't really add anything each time a new one is released, and it's generally each Call of Duty game is an add-on to the last one, and you shouldn't go pick it up because you could just save your money and play the last one. And while that may or may not be true on Call of Duty's part, it's generally the reviewer's fault for not sorry about that going into too many specifics on the review, and talking about what kind of things Call of Duty's changed, or not even just Call of Duty, what other games that come out yearly has changed, such as Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelations come out on a year-to-year, and the new one, Assassin's Creed 3, comes out on a year-to-year basis. And while they generally do a good job of changing up the story quite a bit, they don't really do too much to change on the gameplay mechanics. And you generally see this consensus among reviewers like, well, it haven't really changed much, but it's still a good game, so it should still get a vague written review that will get people to buy it, because these are generally AAA titles that are being worked, that you can probably guess are being worked with the developers and the reviewers to kind of promote the product. So again, as stated earlier, it would be a conflict of interest to give them a bad review if they're working with the developers to promote the product. Another reason why I don't like game reviews in general is because if a game's not a AAA product and it can't live without, like a AAA game like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed or Battlefield, it can generally do well on its own without a good or bad review, just because there's a lot of hype around it, and it will generally sell copies anyway, whether it gets a bad review or not. But there are many other smaller, lesser known games that come out that they generally live on the fact that they don't work with the reviewers, and the game developers put their heart and souls into making these games, their blood, their sweat, and their tears. And when a game reviewer puts out a bad review for the game, it can generally drastically excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with me. They can generally drastically alter the way the game is sold based on these vaguely written reviews that are either well written, or, well, not really well written, more like well received by the community, or these really vaguely written bad reviews that kind of just shit on the game and say it's a bad game, you shouldn't go pick it up. So you kind of, when you write that kind of review, you're kind of partly responsible for the destruction of that game company, based on the fact that you wrote a bad review. Now they're probably not going to be able to sell enough copies to break even, and they're probably going to have to go bankrupt. And this kind of thing is the kind of thing that turns me off about game reviews, and because overall I feel like they're more trouble than they're worth. And I personally like to use my friends as reviews, and I generally know them, what their tastes are, and when they say a game is good or bad, I can know whether or not, compared to their taste to mine, whether a game they say is good or bad will be good or bad to me. So I guess my advice to you, which isn't really too much of good advice, is just technically you want to find you really don't want to use reviews at all, in my opinion, but if you are going to use reviews to buy games, I would say try to find a smaller, lesser known reviewer and find one that shares your tastes in gaming. And if he writes well written reviews that generally go into good detail on the specifics, the in-game mechanics, and all that kind of stuff inside a game, you should use him as your personal reviewer, and don't listen to the reviews of big name sites. Just listen to this guy or girl, whatever, and use him or her, because you'll generally share their taste and you'll know them well enough to the point where you'll be able to decide whether or not a game is good or not based on what they write. So that's a lot for this discussion. That's pretty much all I've got. So if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and favorite, and please be sure to subscribe for more videos. The link to my channel is down in the description below, and also be sure to subscribe to the Adamant Network. If you have a topic of discussion that you'd like me to discuss on my next video, please leave a comment down below. Also, please leave some comments telling me what you thought of this video and what you think I could do to improve on the next one. Also, I know I'm telling you guys to leave a lot of comments, but I want to hear your opinion on this subject, because this is something that I generally want to hear a lot of people's opinion on, because a lot of people have different opinion on reviews in general. So I want to hear your thoughts on this subject, so please leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.